All right, we're gonna get to doing something productive here in a minute, but I figured I'd show this stuff first. I basically just blew 2/3 of the day at an auction this morning that I wasn't even planning on going to. But last night, Dylan Lynch, one of the guys that I met down at Rand Tools, texted me. He said, "Hey, you going to this auction?" It was, I mean, literally just the other side of town. It was like 5 minutes, like 2 miles north of town. So, like, not even, yeah. I wasn't planning on going because there wasn't really anything there I was interested in, and I'm not too fond of the guy that was having the auction. But anyway, he wanted this stuff because he wanted all the square head hardware. It's all square head bolts, square head nuts, some carriage bolts, and it's all in. There's some Alice boxes. These are Deutz Alice boxes. There's some John Deere boxes. Thought there's some international stuff in here somewhere too, but I'm pretty sure all this came out of our co-op. Used to be an Alice dealer, and they went to Deutz, and then they went to IH. So that would explain all the Deutz and Alice and IH stuff. The Deere stuff, not so much, but you never know. But anyway, he wanted this. I was like, well, I went and looked at it last night, and I'm like, surely it can't take that long, because I mean, there was 5 wagon loads of junk and some other random. Any good auctioneer probably should have been able to burn through it in 2.5 hours. Well, it was a Phil Hahn auction, and he milked it out. Well, they started at 9:30, and they finally ended about 1:45. He milked it out forever. Anyway, so I ended up going, and I'm glad I did, because I've been looking for a bench vise for my house because I don't have one. And there was this old Craftsman 5180, what is that, 5183, I'm guessing from the 40s, maybe 50s. I mean, it's heavy, and I think if I cleaned it up, I think it's still got blue paint on it because there's blue in the bolt holes. But it's nice. The screw is tight. It's a nice vise. The only downside to it is obviously it's not a pivot vise, but for anything I need to do at the house. And I think I didn't measure it. I don't know if it's a 6 or an 8-inch vise, but anyway, I gave $55 for it, and I dare you to buy a new vise that kind of build quality for less than $500. So I'm happy with it. I'll clean it up and throw it on the bench, and now I'll actually have a vise that I can do something with. So I got that, and then there was a Farmall 400 there that was, I think it could have been fixed, but it was sold as a parts tractor. It was non-running. It was locked up. It had one locked up brake, so the right hand rear wheel wouldn't turn. But it had factory power steering, 3 remotes, 2 sets of wheel weights. The rear rims were shot. The front rims were shot. The sheet metal was really straight. The battery box, I mean, all in all, I'd have gave it a 7 out of 10 as far as straight. It just, the engine was locked up, but the oil was clean, so didn't have any water in it, so it might have just been lightly stuck. You might have been able to bust it loose and get it running. But didn't end up getting that, because once he found out it was stuck, he didn't want me. It went for $650, and that was more than what he was willing to give for it stuck. So that went to a guy that works for Dennis Polk. So whether or not it ends up at one of their sales or not, I don't know, but that's who. It went to one of his guys. And there was a wagon running gear there that I was kind of interested in for a header cart, but it was a high arch wagon for like pulling boxes behind corn pickers. It had a really tall spindles in it, and I was worried about getting over it and being able to unhook the head, so I just let that pass because I didn't want to deal with the junk bed that was on it, and it had 4 junk tires, so I let that pass. But my deal of the day was that stuff. I wasn't even planning on buying it. I never even looked at it when I went and looked last night. I just walked right on past it, didn't give it much thought. There's 15 or 16. I don't know how many. I didn't count. I just know what the guy told me. Climber, no-till fertilizer shanks in here. Almost, they're not that, I mean, they're a little crusty because they're fertilizer shanks, but they're not that old. And I talked to the mechanic at the farm where they came from, and he said they took them off this spring and replaced them with heavier shanks because apparently, how they did it, I don't know, unless it's just how fast they pull them. But apparently in hard ground, and it looks like this one might actually be a little tweaked possibly, but he said apparently in hard ground they would bend these shanks, so they went to a heavier opener with square shanks. So they don't have that many acres on them. They're just kind of crusty because they're fertilizer openers. I got all the knives are in there, but the knives are kind of they probably need replaced anyhow. All the mounting hardware, all the coulter shanks, coulter arms, everything minus the coulter blades, everything, all the hardware is in there for 50 bucks. I was the only one that bid on it. It was sitting there, they couldn't get a bid. I was like, well, shit, I'll give you 50 bucks, which works out great because I'm trying to build, I want to get that fertilizer applicator built this winter, and I only had 7 shanks for it, so I wasn't going to be able to cover a true 8 rows. Well, now I've got 15 shanks, so I got enough to build a true 8 row with 9 shanks, because you'd do 7 shanks full rate, and then your 2 ends, 1 and 9, would be half rate, so that when you come back around you got your 2 half rates running in the same row to get a full rate, and you're covering the entire 8 rows. You know, that if you're following me, that's how that works. So now I got enough to do 9 matching coulters all the way across with a couple spares. I can probably turn around and sell all those Clark coulters that I got for 30 bucks a piece and make all my money back off of that. So that worked out pretty good. So yeah, these were my, and like I say, this stuff's not mine, it's going away. Although I'm going to ask him if he'll let me keep a couple of the boxes, because I want one of them Alice boxes. I want one of the Alice, one of the Deutz, and one of the Deere, just so I got one of each one. But so this stuff's going away, but the vise is mine and this stuff's mine. So, but I'm gonna get this stuff taken care of, and then we'll come back and get the 7300 down here and actually try to do something productive for the day. All right, well, I guess I must consider this whole day shot, because I brought this thing down here, and then my cousin showed up and wanted his half-year rent check so that he could make his mortgage payment. And then the guy that was taking that pallet of bolts showed up, and he was probably here for 35, probably longer than that, probably 45 minutes to an hour, shooting the shit. And now it's 4:30. Guess I might as well just figure out shooting this whole day in the foot. But I did get a hold of Crary and figured out what I needed to do for a bar, and got a part number, and then I called the dealer, and he was trying to order it for me. But apparently what I'm doing here is throwing everybody out there at Crary for a loop, because apparently nobody has ever just ordered a knife back before. So they're gonna do it, but they had to figure out how much it would, like, they had to figure out pricing and everything on it. So hopefully by Monday I'll have that ordered, and then that'll be good to go. But today, or this evening, we're obviously not going to get it done, so I'm not going to have enough time, but we'll get started on it. I got to figure out a plan of attack for these guys. Which how would this would have been basically like that, but here. So what we're gonna have to do, I think what I'll be able to do is just take figure out where it needs to be, and figure out how big it needs to be, and just take a hole saw and punch a hole right here, and then take a die grinder and square it off so that you got a round to fit over these these hold downs. And we'll have to figure out, hold on, I gotta go grab some parts so that we can visualize this. Okay, so I think what I can do, and we'll have to throw, before we make a final decision, I'm gonna throw all the shields on here and figure out where everything's gonna land, because things might get funky for this one down here that works with the drive head. But I think what I can do is, if I can make a spacer that's whatever the thickness is of these hold downs and the shim stacked up, to put on this bolt, and it'd be the same thing here, and we could use so it'd end up like that, and then I will probably just have to maybe weld a tab across the front, because I don't think I got enough room to just bend that down. I think it would end up binding on here. But if I could weld just a tab that points straight down on the front to basically keep these things from jumping off forward, because that's all you need, because natural flow of the head's going to try to pull them back anyhow. I think that'll work, and that will use mostly stock parts. So let me get all these laid out here, and we'll have a look, see where all of the catches are going to land, and we can make a final decision. Oh, this is just going to work out super minty, because we're clear, and it actually worked out having these spaced on an actual guard instead of bridging them like they were set up on the white guards. Because on the white guards they would be here, and you know, because they were splitting guards. So everywhere I need to land one, we'll be able to just catch a left-hand bolt and a bolt that's not doing anything, and there's nothing in the way, which makes life really easy. And then, like I say, all I'll have to do is figure out where these land, and I think I can get away with just going up to this first bend right here and cut clearance in for these, and we should be in pretty good shape. So we just got to figure out what I need to do for a spacer here, and that will be step one. Okay, so a stack up with a hold down and one of the ledger plates on the back measures 341-ish, so basically a fuzz shy of 3/8. So I'm just gonna take a piece of round stock and make some basically heavy washers. I don't want to make them out of anything square and take the risk of them like getting turned or something and catching the back of the sickle, because that would make a mess. So all we got to do is take, oh come on, you'll fit, you should fit, yeah, it should fit in there. It might have some crap in it. Hold on. Alright, there's my blank that I'm going to cut my pucks out of. I used a gun drill to go down through the center for a pilot hole, and I had to use a gun drill because this is a 4-inch long blank, and a jobber length drill that small isn't going to be 4 inches long to get through it in one shot without flipping it. And I didn't want to have to flip it and worry about not being on center coming out the other end. And I tell you what, them gun drills are stressful to use. You're going through and you watch them sitting there twisting like this, and then you hear it, they'll catch a chip or something, and they'll make that really grindy, snappy sound like tool steel or like high-speed steel snapping off, and it's like, oh, that's stressful. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set me up a stop block, since I got to make 8 of them the same. I'm going to get as close to 3/8 as I can. If they're a little thick or a little thin, that's fine. We're not building a rocket ship. It's just got to be a decent, almost matching spacer. So I'm going to set up a stop block so that we can cut 8 of them the same length and get that. Okay, so there's the 8 of the spacers that I need, all drilled and cut and deburred. So those can hang out there. So the next thing we need to do is figure out where we need to notch the pans. And I'm just gonna do one at a time here. We'll do the first one all the way, and if that ends up working out good, then we will, I am going to grab the, let's grab, just so we know roughly where center is. We can put this on there, straddle of the bolts. Kind of like that. Okay, we'll use this. And that'll tell me that. So we're gonna have to notch it there, and there, and there. Same thing, we're not building a rocket ship, it ain't gotta be perfect. We'll compensate by sizing the hole accordingly. Probably put my safety squints on. And figure out what is a good way to clamp this bastard down. Alright, all I did was 1.25 inch hole saw, I think is what I ended up with. I actually needed 1 3/8 hole, but with 1.25 inch hole saw, you usually get enough wobble in it that it makes your 1 3/8 hole. So, and the way everything looks like it might work out here, I'm not even 100% sure. I'll have to get it bolted down and see what it does, but I'm not even 100% sure that we're gonna have to weld anything on the front of these, because it's going to be captured here on these tabs on the hold downs. So this might all work out pretty good. Put just a little bit of clearance on that edge. Apparently they're not all stamped quite the same. Get in there, you booger. Okay, so looks like if we we're just a little tight right here, and it's making it bind just a hair. So I wonder if we would be better off I could be better off just to clip these corners rather than try to bend anything. All right, there's our proof of concept. I just had to go in and kind of feather these corners off. I might do them a little bit more, but as it stands right now, I mean, it's got enough to follow the contour of the head as the bar floats and everything. Got plenty of clearance over the hold downs. You can still open it up if need be, And I don't think we're going to end up having to put any tabs on the front of these hooks. I did tap them with a hammer to knock them down just a little bit because they were kind of but I think we're good the way it sits. So that's the proof of concept one done. It actually went a lot easier than I thought it would, to be honest, because these were I thought were going to be the hardest part, and that was really damn simple. I figured it was going to fight me more than that. So with that being said, I think I'm going to get stuff cleaned up and go ahead and call her a night, because whatever I had going on Tuesday when I didn't, or Wednesday when I didn't feel very, whatever was going on in my head, I initially thought that I had got, because I'd been working on my boss's combine and there was some bean dust that I got into, and I figured, oh, okay, got into some bean dust. Air's been kind of cold and damp. I just got something going on because of that bean dust. It was not bean dust, because I woke up Thursday morning to go to work and it was like, oh crap. I almost called in and didn't go to work, but I was like, let's go in, try to sweat it out. And it took me until about 10:30, 11 o'clock to finally get up and going. And once I did, I must have broke over the top of the hill, and but I still got home Thursday afternoon, and I only had about 2 hours left in me, and I had to go to home and lay down and take a nap because it was not good. And then Friday, I just kind of took it easy because I was finally feeling better. It's like, you know what? I'm no good to anybody if I just keep if I just keep trying and not get any better any faster. So I just chased some parts and kind of took it easy yesterday, and today we're back at it. So, but now that we know what to do, the rest of it will go pretty quick. I got my other guards, so we can put this guy on. And after that, we're kind of stuck on the sickle itself until I get the rest of the parts, and then we could slide the bar in there and get everything adjusted, and this will be done. But remember, no matter what I do, this will never fit and it'll never work. So everything I do here is for nothing, because it's never gonna fit. This isn't fitting. Nothing is fitting right now. Just remember that. Stupid people, I'll tell you what. But it's funny. I get a giggle out of it. So anyhow, we'll catch you guys tomorrow and hopefully have a full productive day. Alright, today we're going to get these, first things first, we're going to get these floor pans finished up, which shouldn't take very long now that I know the process. Hard part's done. And that's going to finish up. I'm going to get these done, and then that'll be this video, because I want to keep all the Crary stuff together on its own for organizational purposes, and then I got bearings and stuff we're going to change once this is done, but that'll be on another video. So, finish up these floor pans. Okay, real quick before we get back to work on these floor pans, I want to get this last guard on. And since these prongs are longer than the stub guards originally on it, now this pipe is in the way, which now that these guards have their own, are longer and, you know, are protecting themselves, don't really need this. So I'm just going to take a Sawzall and cut it off at the base of that flat stock there, and that'll get it out of the way, and it won't be a problem anymore. And I'm gonna deburr that real quick while there's room. Perfect. Except I forgot that this is a skid pan mounting point, so I need some different, or I need two of the older bolts to make that work. All right, that guard's on, everything fits right. That gave me plenty of clearance. All this, literally all this thing is a guide to give some lateral stability to the snout. So that's all that thing does. I don't even know why. I guess I don't even, and I'm probably gonna cut this one off too, just to eliminate it from being a shit catch, but I don't necessarily know why they ended up making it come all the way down like that, because it doesn't really, all it would do on occasion is drag trash. It never really, it's not like it's needed. So anyway, now that that's out of the way, back to our normally scheduled pan modifying broadcast. Alright, that was actually pretty painless. I honestly figured that those floor pans were going to be the hard part, and they really... I mean, for not being a kit that was actually made to fit this head, this whole process has actually been rather painless as far as what's needed to change to make everything cooperate with each other. It's actually been a pretty pleasant process without really any fabrication or major changes whatsoever. I mean, if you had to open up some clearance holes, la-dee-da. I think it took me 45 minutes to do all three of these. So they are assembled backwards because I started down here. It's actually, you're supposed to put this one on first, and this one overlaps, and then this one overlaps, but they all got to come back off anyway so we can finish doing our stuff on the head. So but that's done. They all fit well. There's plenty of slack for them to do their thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull them all back off and throw them back in the head for now. And I think before we wrap this video up, I'm going to make my custom hold downs for right here. So basically what we're gonna have to do is make this fit here. Obviously we don't need all the fingers on it anymore, and it really doesn't need to be that wide. All we really need is the bolt pattern and like a section right here that covers one knife, so we can whack all the fingers off and probably come back in here and miter it and just make it basically the width of 2 prongs, because all it's got to be is, you know, that wide. So to make things easier, we're going to start off in the saw and go from there. There's really no good way to make these miter cuts in the saw because there's no good way to get a hold of it, so I'm just going to freehand those with the grinder. I need to put a new blade on it. Don't want that in there. Now we end up with that, and now we want to clean up our saw cut to make sure that it's flat and square and all that fancy stuff. That, see what that gets us. Guess I could have went a little deeper. That much more. Because the way I've got it clamped in the vise, I'm scared to take too big of a bite and risk it knocking and breaking it, or hurting the cutter, one of the two. bit of creativity, we go from that to that. I ended up, to get it in between the top, whatever you want to call it, the tops of the guards, because they were still pretty close. I ended up making another miter cut, so I came out on this one, and then I made another one that basically took this part out right here, and then I ground the nubs off. I left some of them there for strength, but I ground most of them off for the most part. And that should allow this to lay in here like that. So we can throw that one. I'm gonna have to find some longer bolts because these aren't gonna be long enough. But we can throw that on there and make sure it's gonna be okay. All right, obviously I'm gonna have to cut the bolts off because the ones that we had were too long, but that should work. I had to throw about, they sent some 24,000 shims and some 10,000 shims with the kit, so I threw a 10 and a 20, so there's basically 34 thousandths of shim in there, because without it, it was down hard on the sickle. But that right there should be just about right. So that should work, so I just got to do it again over there. All right, second one's done. Actually, I can't put it on because we don't have bolts, and I couldn't put it on anyway because these bolts are too tall, and well, A, they're too tall, B, they're in the wrong spot, and they'll be fine once we get everything assembled, because I'm gonna have to cut them off short because they're too long even if the drive head was installed, and then once they're cut off they'll have clearance to slide under here. But so I'll have to get some 3/8 by 2.5 inch bolts, which is what those cut off to, and then that'll go on there, and then we'll have all the hold downs that we need. And with that being done, all of the creative stuff should be pretty well knocked out. The last thing we'll have to do is, or the last major thing to do would be to get that other half of this backbone to lengthen the bar to the length I need, and swap all the sickles over and slide the bar in and assemble the drive, and she'll be ready to rock and roll. That's basically what we're down to. So I guess with that being said, we're going to cut this video off here because that's the last of the cutter bar stuff for today, and we'll catch you guys on the next one, which I'm going to go into starting to change some bearings here. So that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.